I'm Ariel Azor, host of Right This Way, and today I'm going to tell you why I'm not a feminist. I think someone could definitely assume that I'm a feminist because I'm young and I'm female. I fit pretty much all the criteria. But modern day feminism isn't what celebrities like to pretend it is. At the end of the day, it's really just poorly disguised man-hating. Let me tell you why I think that, because I think that's a pretty strong statement to make. In this country, women have the exact same rights as men. So how can feminism truly be a fight for women's equality when we're already equal? It's pretty simple. It's not. I'm so tired of hearing that men have no respect for women. You might think that's true if you watch a lot of TV, but if you actually live in the real world and you get out and interact with people, you would see that that's not the case. Right? Men open doors for women. I've seen it happen. If they walk into a room and there's no chairs available and a woman walks in, I've seen men get up and offer their chair to them. And it's not their thinking behind it. Their thought process is not like, oh, you can't stand, you're a woman. What? Who in their right mind even thinks that men are thinking that way, right? Who would think that? No one thinks that way. But feminists like to tell you that's what they're thinking. And they like to tell you that holding the door open for you is rude and it's insensitive and it's all of these things that they just want to be offended by for no real reason. Honestly, those things are respectful. They're polite and they're not necessary, but they're polite. You notice when somebody opens a door for you and you notice, wow, like he went out of his way to give me his chair so I could sit because he didn't mind standing, so I didn't have to, right? Like that's just, it's polite, it's kindness, we shouldn't be so upset about it, but we are. And the thing is, they would be upset if you just closed the door on them, right? If you didn't hold it for them and you just let it shut in their face, they'd be offended by that too. The biggest feminists that you'll see today, I think, prominently, like on social media and in the news and things like that, are these celebrity feminists like Alyssa Milano, Katy Perry, Lena Dunham, Rose McGowan, those people. And they're like women who've like shaved their heads at some point or just decided they're going to stop shaving their armpits forever. Like Madonna doesn't shave her armpits now, apparently. These celebs are just living in their own bubble. They're not interacting with the rest of the world because if they were, they wouldn't think these things are as socially acceptable as they want them to be. It's like maybe one day we're ready for that. I kind of don't think so because I'm never gonna not shave my armpits. Like, who wants that? No, I don't think anybody does. So that's the thing is even if we are ready for it one day, it's not today. But they're saying, yep, we're ready, do this, be this woman, and you're going to be like the most empowered woman in America. And I can say with certainty that if they really understood how feminism affected regular women, I don't think that they would push it the way that they do, right? Like I think, like I said, they live in their own bubble. I don't think they really understand what impact this has on regular women. Because these feminists, they want you to shave your head. They want you to have hairy armpits or dye your hair some weird color. But I don't think I've ever met a guy who's like really into that like total feminist vibe. Every once in a while you see that like millennial guy wearing like a feminist AF shirt. Like good for you, maybe. But I don't even think they like those kind of women. I think they still like feminine women. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know any of those. So these feminists are encouraging women to do these things that are damaging to their self-image and damaging to their dating life. Like I said, I don't think men are really into that. They say they want to empower women simply for the good of women, but they do this by hating on any skinny model who's small enough to fit into a size 2. And they say that women of all shapes and sizes should be represented. But I don't have a problem with that if that's really what we're doing. It's what you're saying we're doing, but in reality, you're taking really skinny models that maybe are anorexic or like maybe have some sort of eating disorder or are just supposed to be really small because of their job. Either way, I get that it's not healthy. And you're replacing those models that are unhealthy because they're too skinny with obese models who are unhealthy because they're too fat, right? And I don't want to say that one is necessarily worse than the other. Unhealthy is unhealthy, but being overweight leads to more deaths than being underweight worldwide. And I mean, I think that's sort of understandable. But at the same time, either way, eating disorder, eating too much, eating too little, nothing is good for you, nothing is healthy. But the problem is with these feminists saying, that's not okay, too skinny, and then, we're going to go and put another unhealthy group of people in the spotlight and be like, yep, this is perfect. This is who you should be. Let's glamorize this. And we're good with that. Perfect. And the only thing I can really take from that is that they really don't care about all women. They only care about women that agree with them, right? Because the statement I just made, I'm now a horrible feminist, and they want to label me because they don't want people to listen to anything I have to say, because it would point out their contradictions in their inherent ideology, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. See, these feminists, they don't really think that you can disagree with them and still be a feminist. And I think that's not really a community I want to be a part of. I don't want to constantly be worried about getting kicked out of the club or not being feminist enough, because when you're competing to be feminist enough, you're just going to go too far over and over again. And I think that we see that happening a lot. Lena Dunham kind of came out and said, like, my feminism is hurting my dating life. Like, men don't even know how to approach me. They're scared to approach me, not like afraid to approach her, but they don't know how to interact with her, things like that. And so they're starting to realize, I think, some of them, how damaging it can be, yet they do nothing about it. They continue to push it on regular women, and they continue to say, you should be this is good for you, this is going to help you. So we haven't even talked about the fact yet that feminists hate men, which is like almost half our population, right? I mean, you can't just be all women all the time. See, of course, not every feminist hates all men. I understand that. But at the end of the day, their ideology really is it's not appreciative of men. We'll say that at the very least. They love attacking toxic masculinity. Now, this is the 21st century, so you probably have a cell phone. You probably know what toxic masculinity is. I understand that, but I'm going to share a proper feminist definition of it because I think you should hear that. So this is a quote from a New York Times article, written, of course, by a woman. Her name is Maya Salam, and she says, so what does toxic masculinity or traditional masculinity ideology mean? Researchers have defined it in part as a set of behaviors and beliefs that include the following: suppressing emotions or masking distress, maintaining an appearance of hardness, violence as an indicator of power, think tough guy behavior. In other words, toxic masculinity is what can come of teaching boys that they can't express emotion openly, that they have to be tough all the time, that anything other than that makes them feminine or weak. No, it doesn't mean that all men are inherently toxic. So I want to dig into that definition for a little bit, because in her first sentence, she says that toxic masculinity is the same thing as traditional masculinity ideology. And then in her very last sentence, she says that this doesn't mean men are all inherently toxic. But traditional masculinity ideology is just a lot of words for masculinity, which is inherently a feature of men, right? So she contradicts herself in like 4 sentences there. And this is like the very, actually, this is not the beginning of the article. This is towards the middle of the article where she actually puts that definition. But if you agree even that these traits she's talking about are toxic, I don't understand where the thinking is that if these masculine traits are toxic, right, and women don't have these traits, then we should just make men just like women? Okay, let's say we get behind that. But they're things that they're doing, these feminist women, they're trying to be more like men, right? This shaving their heads to have guy haircuts, this armpit hair like guys, leg hair like guys, right? These things they're doing are sort of making them more masculine. Yet we're saying that we should get rid of masculinity. We don't want that. We want men to be more feminine, more like women. And I mean, it doesn't really matter what the feminists tell you. Like, they like to say men and women are the same. They're the same. They're the same. Studies show they're the same psychologically. It's not true. Studies don't show that. I mean, they studied monkeys, and the monkeys, like the boy monkeys, went for like trucks and like dump trucks and construction toys, and the girl monkeys went for like baby dolls and things, right? Because there's men and women are inherently different, and there's differences that are instinctual between men and women. They are physically different, biologically, and emotionally different. And they like to tell you that that's not the case, but that is the case. Men and women are different. You don't even need to do a study to see that. You shouldn't, right? You should not need to do a study to show that. See, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter that we're different. You can still be equal. Even if you're different, you can still be equal. Equality does not mean sameness. They're not synonyms. And feminists, they want to tell you that they are, but it's really confusing because it's not just saying, let's make men more like women. They're saying, let's make women more like men and men more like women. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't line up, right? How could those things be possible? And I mean, in the past, I agree, it was unfair that women could not vote. And I think in the past, there was a time and a place for feminism. This feminism is sort of regressive because you're acting like there's a problem that isn't a problem anymore, right? Like, you're going back in time. You're forcing a problem when there wasn't one. I think that these women, again, I think the reason they're doing this is because they don't want to take responsibility for their actions or for their failures. They only want to take responsibility for their success. If a woman doesn't get a job nowadays in some business world or something like that, she says, well, I didn't get it because I'm a woman. And in reality, businesses and companies, corporate companies, they're hiring women simply because they're women, right? They're hiring women to fill a hole in their like acceptable diversity ratio. And they actually need more women to look diverse. So they're trying to hire women for a job. And I think sometimes the problem with this is that you're going to have, let's say, 9 men interviewing for a job. They may all be more qualified. They may all be more qualified than one woman who applies for the job, but she will get it over 9 other more qualified people simply because she's a woman. That sounds like discrimination, right? But it's not discrimination against women. There is one group here that is not getting a job simply because of their gender. And the feminists aren't satisfied with that, right? The whole reason they have to do this diversity thing, they said, here, we'll appease you. We're going to hire more women. And the feminists are still angry. And why is that? It's because these feminists are constantly angry about everything, right? They're never satisfied. They're never happy. It's never enough. They say, you have wronged me in the past. And I literally don't know how women were so wronged. I mean, like, I don't know what their thinking is behind that. I think because we couldn't vote and we were expected to like stay home and have kids and not work. It's like, I don't know why we have to be so upset about this all the time. And the thing is, it's in the past and it's over, right? So like, why are we still upset about it? We are not upset about it. Feminists are. So consider, if you're thinking about becoming a feminist, or if you adhere to some of this ideology, consider why these feminists are still so angry with the world around them. Consider whether this is really something that is a solution to a real problem, or if it's a Band-Aid and it's used just to keep you from realizing your own mistakes and failures. Because feminists just need to take responsibility for their actions. They need to think, well, you know what? I should try harder to get that job next time. I should be more professional in my interview. They need to think of things like that instead of saying, it's a man's fault. I didn't get it because I'm a woman. It's not my fault. Well, that's no way to live. It's a learned helplessness, right? If you just think, I have no say, I can't control what happens to me, you're going to fail, right? You are absolutely going to fail if you think that way. You have to take responsibility. You have to take the bull by the horns and get up and do something about it if you don't like the way that it is. And I think feminists sort of think that they do that. But I think you should ask yourself if you're tired of being offended by absolutely everything. If you enjoyed this video, watching it on YouTube or listening to it on podcast, whatever it was that you did, please give me a thumbs up or leave a review. It would really help me out.